6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, November 10th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Do we have a deal?
Do we?
Democrats caving, opening the path to reopening the government. Several Senate Democrats crossed the aisle, despite getting no guaranteed deal on Obamacare subsidies. Blake will have the latest on that. We'll be talking about that this morning. Plus, Fort Lewis College reversing their rejection of an official Turning Point USA chapter, unanimously supporting it. It's because the Jeff and Bill Show put tremendous pressure on it.
I'm sure. That's exactly it. Absolutely.
We'll be talking about that as well. And Peter Thiel saying capitalism isn't working for young people, and that's why they're drawn so much to Mamdani and politicians like that. So we have a lot to talk about. Most importantly, though, you are invited to be a part of the conversation by giving us a call at 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Hey, good morning. It is Monday, 28 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 71 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Colorado lawmakers reacting to the announced deal to possibly end the Schumer shutdown. Looks like it's going to happen, created by the left. Several members of the Senate Democratic caucus joined Republicans in advancing a deal that would fund the government until the end of January. John Hickenpooper and Michael Bennett voted no, saying the bill failed to address their concerns about the cost of health care. Of course, their concern is helping health insurance companies make tons of money so they can help them win elections. Crow, Nagoose, and Pedersen all say they'll vote no. No way. In a 60-40 vote, 8 members of the Senate Democratic caucus joined Republicans in advancing a stopgap measure that would fund the government through January 30th. A tentative agreement would restore food assistance funding. Funds for SNAP have been in limbo and at the center of a legal battle, of course. So it looks like that's going to end it, hopefully.
I just sit here amazed that we're at a point where it is so perfectly clear what can happen to services if you rely upon the government to provide them.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you end up with a split government like we do, they literally use them as tools to try to negotiate whatever agenda they want to move forward, right? They can take something and use it as leverage. Exactly,
yes,
right?
So leverage. They really care about the people.
We sit on one hand and it's fully exposed to all the voters.
Yeah.
What happens when you put something in the realm of government to manage? Mm-hmm. It gets abused and used as leverage to advance other agendas. And then at the same time, voters are like, you know what's a good idea? Electing socialists.
Right.
I don't know how more to expose the stupidity of socialism. You saw it fully collapse and fail in front of you.
Yep.
And then you ran and voted for the socialist.
Absolutely. The curtain is unveiled and we see it right before our eyes.
Yep.
It's just, it is incredible. And it gets so old, so sick. 31-year-old Wolfgang Craig was arrested after a woman was found dead in the 8600 block of East Yale Friday. Craig was initially arrested for investigation of first-degree assault, though that charge has now been changed to investigation of first-degree murder. Investigators say Craig knew the victim but did not specify the nature of their relationship. New York Governor Hochul is shutting down one of Kami Dani's key policy proposals. Already, he wanted to make MTA bus rides free for strap hangers throughout the 5 boroughs. But guess what? Hochul said that that would take money out of the MTA when it has a strong need for those funds to keep the trains and buses running. No way. Is that how that works? Texas Governor Greg Abbott is running for a 4th term. The Republican governor said that he plans to finish what he started and lead the Lone Star State into what he called its glorious future. Jared Kushner is reported to be meeting today in Israel with Netanyahu. Blake Sifton reports the president's son-in-law and White House advisors looking to settle a standoff over the presence of Hamas in southern Gaza.
The U.S. is understood to be pushing for their safe passage to Palestinian-controlled areas of Gaza in exchange for them surrendering their weapons out of fear that Israeli attempts to capture or kill them could cause the ceasefire to collapse.
As many as 200 Hamas terrorists are thought to be trapped in tunnels behind Israeli military lines in Rafah. They said they will not surrender to Israel, and Israel says it won't allow them to leave, even if they hand over their weapons. All right, stop. Just stop, please. Avs in Vancouver. Game goes to overtime.
Brindley on the ice. Brock Nelson coming on. This is a lot of confidence to the youngster Gavin Brindley. But Coach Bednar knows he has the speed. He can carry it into the zone. Brindley, shifty. Brindley, wrist shot, saved by Lankinen. Score! Gavin Brindley, his first career game-winning goal, his 3rd career goal, and the Avs have won it in overtime on the 2nd effort.
5-4. Thank you, Marky Mosier. Avalanche win it in OT. What a game. Wow. Steelers at the Chargers last night on Sunday Night Football.
Before that first down snap, because we're down to 16 seconds left. Herbert throwing inside. Touchdown, McConkey.
Chargers chasing the Broncos in the West. They win. They beat Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers 25-10. Nuggets at the Kings tomorrow night. 27 in Centennial, 26 in Arvada, 28 in Denver. You are waking up with Jeff and Bill. And it's Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 KNUS forecast this early Monday. Clear skies, temperatures right around 30 degrees by daybreak. For the rest of your Monday, sunny, highs near 70, lows tonight in the low 40s. For Veterans Day on Tuesday, a salute to all you veterans. Sunny skies, highs near 70. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
The breaking news this morning is looks like the government shutdown getting closer and closer to being over as Senate Democrats have come on over, at least a few of them, with Republicans to negotiate a deal, and Democrats not happy about this. In fact, the New York Times saying things like Democrats' unity crumbled as the shutdown dragged on. And the 8 Democrats that came over are some significant ones, Bill. So you have the usual suspects. You have John Fetterman, folks like that. But then Tim Kaine, the vice presidential nominee of Hillary Clinton, came over. And then probably the biggest name of them all, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin. So this wasn't just kind of a few fringe Democrats. This was some significant ones, and they get some of the they get some of the.
Yeah, Rand Paul doesn't vote for it, but I think everybody else did.
Yeah, but they get the Republicans to acquiesce on some deals around pay, making sure that the pay isn't cut for some of these government employees, and then a promise that the healthcare vote will come up soon.
Yeah,
and that's kind of it as far as what the Democrats get. So, was it worth it, Bill? I think you said early on that the side, no matter what the side, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, the side that is forcing the shutdown to take place doesn't fare so well when all is said and done.
No, normally doesn't. And I don't think if this is the final settlement, this is very, very poorly done based on the Democrats. And it might be a strategic mistake for Republicans as well. I heard earlier in the weekend that there was talk of just extending the subsidies for a year. In my mind, politically and strategically, that would have been the smartest thing to do, because you avoid all of the pain people are going to be going through over the holiday season, looking at what the rising cost of the premiums in their healthcare is going to be. And that is a direct pain that will happen now. So that pushing that off for a year, I think would have been much smarter politically for both sides, because when they talk about, oh, we're going to have a debate and we're going to have a vote, we know how ineffective and unprepared these people are. So is there any faith that any of this will get resolved in the next few months? No, not at all. But I also hear that this is possibly just a temporary funding up through the end of January. That would be different as well. That would be a weird set of constraints.
Let's just go through this every 3 months, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing. If they did get that for only extending it for 3 months, to me, that would be a huge strategic mistake by the Republicans.
Yeah, I know.
That you want to go through this again.
Over and over and over again.
Huge mistake. So what I'm hearing right now, I would say bad strategic mistake on the Democrats by only getting the promise of a vote. And if it is true that this thing only funds through the end of January, bad strategic mistake by the Republicans in my mind. Both y'all messed this up. But, well, you guys got us into this in the first place, not figuring out you knew that this was coming up and you refused to do anything about it. So what do we expect, really? What do we expect at this point?
Let's go to the phone lines. Chris in Lakewood. Good morning, Chris. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Morning, Jeff and Bill. I just have a question. How do people expect billions of these healthcare subsidies to be released to, private healthcare, companies with no guarantee of lowering premiums? It's an honest question here. Isn't that kind of reckless? I mean, I currently have insurance through, privately through my employer, and I'm not seeing any sort of shift here. Just to put it out there, I think I pay for a family, around $200 to $300 every 2 weeks, which isn't unreasonable in my opinion. I've seen a lot more expensive plans, across the board. But how do we expect to give billions of dollars again to healthcare companies with no guarantee on lowering costs? I just don't get it. I don't understand where the logic is here.
Well, I know.
Thorpe,
Are you
wanna take that
talking?
one?
Are you talking about Donald Trump's proposed give back at 2000? Because he talked about giving money back to people to go buy their own insurance. Or are you talking about the ACA, Obamacare lowering premiums, or what are we talking about?
I'm talking about the ACA and the release of the billions of dollars towards that. Isn't that kind of like, where's the logic in giving these companies billions of dollars to supposedly lower premiums instead of using it as a bargaining chip and saying, hey, we'll give you the money or what have you, but we're going to have some conditions met. I mean, they're a private company. They set the price, right? And we touched on this last week, that you get penalized for actually using your health insurance.
Yeah.
But most of that cost is administrative costs. In my own personal case study, it's outrageous. But anyways, I just don't understand why we would give billions in subsidies to private companies who are just going to keep that money anyways.
Well, the billions, the
it.
subsidies are for people that would be getting insurance outside of their employer. So you don't count in the ACA. All the government subsidies, all the government subsidy money doesn't touch anything on your health care. In fact, does provide some upper pressure on your health care prices because of lower cost elsewhere. And the government has negotiated certain, I would say, scales of coverage with these insurance companies as far as what they have to cover, and they do hold some sway based on price. So the government exchange, the ACA, is where all of these subsidies are basically going, because those are people that don't have the ability or have chosen not to get insurance through their employer. Some of them are self-employed, some of them aren't working, some are disabled, some are elderly. There's a whole series of reasons why people are on the ACA. But those subsidies don't touch your health care really at all.
Sure, but my question is, the money is still going to the private companies, right?
Yes.
Is this not a racket? I mean,
yes,
is this true?
yes, Chris, that's exactly what it is.
The state self-report, California, New York, Chicago, Colorado, every state self-reports on how much money they should receive to the federal government, and then expects the federal government to pay. And then when the federal government doesn't pay, they decry whatever they decry. Republicans are bad, all these things. I'm just saying, it just seems like a racket to me, like on a basic business level.
Yes,
I'm just asking
100%.
you, what do you think?
And it's no different than why cost for education, particularly higher education, has just skyrocketed. Because you handed universities a chunk of money that came in via Pell Grants and things like that, subsidized, and they just added the tuition now on top of that. So what used to be, $18,000 a year for an education is now $40,000 a year, and has gone wildly outside of traditional inflation costs. It's very similar. When the government steps in, you remove traditional market forces that essentially force an industry to make things have a higher quality and a lower cost. That goes away because now it's artificially subsidized, and that's why it gets more expensive.
But now let's remember that prior to the ACA, what that type of a market brought us, and those were lifetime caps, pre-existing conditions, and a whole list of reasons why you weren't going to get covered and why you weren't going to get health care. My son, who has a brain injury from birth, would not be covered if we didn't have the ACA. If that mechanism did not exist, he is too expensive. He would have burned through his lifetime cap for any other insurer, and because of his pre-existing conditions, would have a really difficult time, if not impossibility, getting insured. And he's 26.
Sure.
So that's what we had to also, that was the reason that some of the ACA went through. We forget this, that when we didn't have all of this government regulation, we had insurance companies telling you, this is all the money we will ever spend on you. And you know what? It's really expensive to treat these sick people. We don't want to treat them anymore, so we're not going to insure you. That's how they insured through the market that they made more money. So we have to remember that.
Sure.
That just
Absolutely.
abolishing the ACA isn't going to make things better. In fact, it's going to make things worse in the market because
It's
the
not gonna
market was
make
worse.
things worse. The
market was worse beforehand.
No, it wasn't actually. And,
yes, it was.
And,
you had lifetime caps and you had exclusions.
Right. So this is classic kind of socialist appeals to. Look, von Mises says in his book Socialism, which was written 100 years ago, by the way, is that there's no scientific example that socialism has ever worked. So what you rely upon, and again, I'm going to remind you all, this was written 100 years ago. What you rely upon are moralistic arguments towards central planning. And so what started out as a few cases of people being denied comparatively to everybody with lifetime caps, you've now forced the entire population into subsidizing more and more expensive health care, so everybody has to pay more. Everybody gets worse care. And the only idea back then was we have to force people or we have to have a government solution. There's no idea that people that were getting rejected by healthcare companies could have been provided care via nonprofits, for instance. There were plenty of other options, but we ran towards the government. Now we forced everybody else into government care. We're marching towards single payer. And it's going to be worse for everybody.
Yeah, those NGOs existed beforehand, Chris, and they couldn't take up the bills, especially because you're talking about cutting off care for those that are the most expensive, because that's the loss. That's the loss inside the insurance company. So the idea that out of the goodness of their heart, there are charities out there that would be able to care for the most expensive of those individuals out there as far as healthcare, that's a fallacy. And the only reason that we got to the ACA is because of what happened beforehand. It wasn't that people just came in and said, oh, I know a great idea. Let's have socialism in healthcare. No, it was because of the situation that existed beforehand, and that's why it was changed. It wasn't that we were running around getting the most efficient, most cost-effective, and best results out of our healthcare. It was already backwards.
And it's just gotten worse.
Why don't we incentivize big healthcare companies to, I don't want to say subsidize look, I have a sister who's on dialysis. She's, very young, 23, 24. That's obviously very expensive. Things like that. Why isn't there some sort of like common sense tax incentive for these huge healthcare companies to subsidize people, the most, what am I trying to say? Not helpless, but those in society that need the help the most, instead of trying to scam the federal government. I mean,
Chris, because the one thing for me is that the insurance company is one of the few things, and I have a hard time coming up with anything else. One of the few things that in the free market there is a disincentive for them to have you use their service. That doesn't exist anywhere else. Car companies want you to buy the cars. Restaurants want you to go to the restaurant. Gyms want you to show up and go to the gym. The only place that makes more money with you not using the service is basically the health insurance. That's why. So there's no incentive for them. And that's why you get into things like subsidies, et cetera, because then it makes it less expensive for them to cover it. That's why.
We go to the doctor.
I'm not sure that's a fair analysis, because the United States has produced the most innovative health care in the world, right? We invent things differently than any other nation does when it comes to healthcare. We invent care, we invent medicine, we invent procedures, all that stuff.
But we're not the only one. It happens all over the world. We're not the only one.
No,
yes,
it doesn't.
Does. Yes, it does.
You want to talk about the Russian healthcare system and how great they're doing?
We can go through England, France, Germany, Spain.
And
there
who
are other
produces the greatest medical innovations?
Again,
we go to the doctor
this is silly.
Right,
we go to the doctor the least, though. Out of all the countries in the world, the American population goes to the doctor the least because they don't want an exorbitant bill in the mail that they can't pay and get their the wages garnished throughout the year. I've personally experienced this with a couple of friends of mine, which is why I'm saying we should have, if we're going to have federal intervention, it should not be pumping billions of dollars of subsidies. It should be sitting these execs down at the table and saying, what do we got to do for the needy of our society and to keep premiums down? You can't just keep making money hand over fist. I mean, at the expense of the American taxpayer, I mean, it's just ludicrous at this point already.
Chris, Bill, how easy is it to start a healthcare company in America?
Not very easy, I would say. Probably federal regulation would have something to do with that.
Right.
But all I'm saying is it's monopolized. We know this.
Correct.
I mean, it's getting to a point where it just seems like they're scamming the U.S. government, because the U.S. government is going to pay on time every time unless there's a U.S. government shutdown. And they know this. And it's kind of like they hold people's feelings hostage or use them, as some sort of PR to milk the U.S. government. And I'm all for a free market. But I have to side with Bill on this, that there should be some sort of government intervention, very small, but like very basic in terms of not setting pricing, but saying, hey, we'll give you some sort of incentive here. You want to pay your CEOs, millions and bonus packages and this and that, we'll give you like a tax break or something. I don't know. There has to be some sort of incentive that they would want, instead of just scamming
Chris,
the money printer.
Bill, I understand there's a problem. I'm not ignoring the fact that there's a problem, but the problem exists in part because of government intervention, and the solution should not be more government intervention. Like I just said, why is it so hard to start a healthcare company?
Well, lots of regulations, but the issue being is that what you're talking about is that it's going to make, if we go to more government regulation and oversight and even subsidies, it's going to make, it seems to be, you're saying it's going to make the healthcare system even more expensive.
Correct.
But that's disproven based on every other major developed country in the world.
Really?
They have
you
more.
Think, you think they have better healthcare than we do?
Hang on.
The ones that don't have a military.
What we have is we've shown they spend less and get overall better results than we do. That's basically it. So the idea that if we did what other developed nations are doing, it would end up providing worse care and higher costs has been disproven. We by far spend more money per capita on healthcare than all of those other countries that everybody tells you is supposed to be the boogeyman that we're scared of. I'm not saying that socialist medicine or single payer is great. I'm not saying that's the direction we should go. I'm just saying that when we are spending more than anybody else in any developed nation by a ton and getting worse results, that's an issue.
What
we can't
are the
sit here and
worst
defend
results? Define those for me.
I'll go through it right now. I don't have it in front of me. But basically just the average lifespan of care, infant mortality rates, things like that are worse here than otherwhere. That's it.
All right, so like obesity and
in some places,
lifetime of care, right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can go through.
Let's talk about the quality of the care with regards to surgeries that hospitals provide. Do you believe that the quality of the surgeries in places like Germany, Finland, Canada is of the same or better than you would get here in the United States?
Yes. And I think and here's the idea.
I've seen plenty of evidence against that.
Here's the idea. It's on a scale. There are going to be places here in America that we can find worse care, and there are going to be places in Germany we can find worse care. And there are going to be places in America where we can find better care, and there are going to be places in Germany we can find better care. If we go to Dr. Stedman and talk about knee replacements and things like that, he's one of the best on the planet. So you're not going to find somewhere in Germany who do better than that. But are there other options? Yes. It's all on a gradient scale. Absolutely. Just like here in America, you can go to vastly different places and get different.
You didn't make the argument of a gradient scale when you began. You made a holistic.
I said
overall,
I said over. Yes. Overall.
Right?
Yes.
So
overall.
I'm asking you.
And that's
overall.
on a scale. Overall on a scale. Yes. Overall, you're going to find places in America that are worse and places in Germany that are worse. Overall, you're going to find places in Germany that are better. And overall, you're going to find places in America that are worse, depending on what you're looking at. Yes.
I think the last... What are we looking at? Almost 10 years of Obamacare has given you a perfect window into what's going to happen if we continue to march down this road. We've tried it. We've had it. I think the quality of care I get today is worse than it was prior to Obamacare. I've watched the costs get more expensive than prior to Obamacare. So we've seen it. This is just a march right towards single payer. Chris, you want to have the final word?
Sure. I believe the evidence in what Bill is saying is in the lifespan. You are speaking of all this medical innovation, but we have the lowest lifespan because why? I mean,
Our diet's
are,
terrible.
Probably our diet. My in-laws are from Europe, and it's completely different over there. I didn't see too many fat people. I'm just saying. But what I am saying is, despite all this medical innovation, we have one of the most unhealthiest populations that don't go to the doctor as regularly as Asians do or as Europeans do. And I think that's it's very confusing as to why we would do that. But I guess I wouldn't go either if I'm going to get this large bill in the mail. And, who wants to deal with that? Who wants to deal with the pressures of medical debt? I mean, been there, done that, So we,
Chris,
we
I understand. I 100% understand the problem. But if we as a nation think that the government stepping in to either incentivize costs via additional spending or overregulate this is going to make it better, I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And we're choosing the wrong solution to address these problems. And in fact, we're just going to make it more expensive and get worse care as a result of it. Chris, I sure appreciate the call.
Yeah,
thanks for
calling
kicking
the
us off
Chris.
Monday morning. That was a lot of fun. All right, let's talk Gyrie's. Wife and I went to a Gyrie's location in Parker recently, had an absolutely fantastic experience. We sat down with their professional designers, and they showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Look, I'm a little overwhelmed at first because I'm not a home improvement pro, no Tim the Toolman Taylor here. But the designer was able to walk us through everything and help us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they'll help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. Here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come directly to you. They came with paint samples so we could see what it looked like in our home. All the different types of blinds, they brought those as well. And then they brought laser measuring devices so they could get the exact perfect custom blinds for us. So you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit Gyrie's.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. Gyrie's, GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Gyrie's. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Text messages hot, and as you can imagine, they're on both sides.
Yes, they are. Y'all are great.
Jason in Denver, between Medicare, Medicaid, VA, healthcare, Obamacare, subsidies, every employer-based insurance dollar spent gets a government subsidy. The government can never be removed from the system. Yay. Also, just about every medication in the last 25 years was initially funded by government research grants. I just, if that's the way we're going to go, the government has to be involved. We're going to march down this way. Then I think you're going to expect innovation to die when it comes to this. The United States is generally considered to be the most innovative nation in the world when it comes to healthcare development, drug development, research, those types of things. Because it's a mix of government grants in some cases, but also the free market working. If we go down the pathway of socialized medicine, taxes are going to go up, and I think the quality of care will decline. Will you get to see a general practitioner a little bit easier? Yeah, I think that's a trade-off. Look, economics is trade-offs. And if that's the way you want to go, like the basic standard ability to see a doctor is available to you, okay. But I think your taxes are going to go up, and I think innovation's going to go down. Others, Suzanne texted in, real life, I had both knees, hips, shoulders replaced under Medicare, single payer, 6 body parts. I've never had better results, care, nor result. Real life. She also had melanoma surgery, too.
Ouch.
So, wow, she's a bionic woman at this point.
Yeah, I think that the elephant in the room that neither party wants to deal with that is serious is that we are the only country in the developed world that has medical bankruptcy. That's an issue, and that's something that has to be addressed. We're the only ones that, based on you or your family getting into a major accident or getting sick, you can lose everything. And that's, for me, a real question based on society. And everyone else has figured it out. Yet we stand here and go, no what to do. That's an issue for me. Is
that medical bankruptcy for people outside of care? So if you buy insurance and...
No, with care, you can go bankrupt. Absolutely, you can. Yeah. Yes. Based on the cost they take out of you. Yes. You can have medical bankruptcy.
Did you have the right type of care?
What do you mean by right type of care?
Right when you reach certain limits, doesn't it click in? I mean, with your insurance?
Yeah, but then there's also a portion and other things that you pay for. But yeah, and there are times in which
they're also, but
there are also exclusions and other things that happen, and and so that's just kind of what we have. So that's the issue. And even if you're outside of that or working part time and you get very sick, then you can lose everything because of that. That's just ridiculous. That's the part that we really, really need to look at, is that this is the only place in the entire world, at a developed nation, in which you have things like medical bankruptcies. And that's just ridiculous that we turn around and we let that go.
You know what the number is on that?
No. Based on total number of people?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the rate is.
But again,
on medical bankruptcy.
Yeah. Again, the total numbers I'm not necessarily as worried about because of the size of our country. And again, insurance is necessarily supposed to be a shared risk pool. We have more than enough people in this country to share that risk pool. More than enough. As far as the millions of people we have in the country, there's more than enough of a shared risk pool.
Yeah, but I just don't understand why care is getting worse.
Well, here's the thing.
You think the quality of the care you're getting today is the same as it was prior to Obamacare? I don't.
I think there are better things, and I think there are worse things. I think there are things that have changed, but I think some of that has to do with economics as well, rather than necessarily Obamacare, and that's part of it. And what I don't see is that necessarily after, and this is a part of the problem that I have, necessarily after Obamacare, I don't think that per capita we constrained spending per patient. I don't think it changed the trajectory on how out of whack we are as far as our spending. And I don't think it changed appreciably where we are as far as outcomes, as far as infant mortality rates, as far as longevity of life, as far as major diagnoses of some illnesses, other things like that. I don't think it necessarily changed that trajectory. I think it put in some guardrails that were absolutely necessary because of some horrible things the insurance companies and other healthcare companies were doing to people. But was it going to be fixed? No. And in part, I hold both parties responsible to this because they both stood there and they didn't want to work together.
Why are we paying more then? If there's no
change
in trajectory, as you mentioned.
Not appreciable, but here's the idea.
Why are we paying more?
Well, here's the thing. Guess what else we're paying more for? Rent, paying more for your car insurance, paying more for cars.
Yeah, but
you're paying more for
the inflation.
Coke out of, I know, but
the inflation around Medicare medical costs has gone up a lot more than just traditional inflation.
Yeah, and you know where it hasn't gone up a lot more is around the Medicaid and Medicare costs. So that's the problem that we have is there are some upward pressures inside of the healthcare industry, but some of that has to do with profits. And again, as Chris, our earlier caller, talked about, the percentage of money that is paid towards administration in many of those insurance companies versus what Medicare and Medicaid pay out as far as administrative costs. We talk about, one of the things we talked about in the school boards was that in Cherry Creek School Board, the Cherry Creek School District, one of the largest increases in their line item budget over the past 4 to 5 years has been spending on administrators. It has gone up 16%
that
when spending per
seems to be
student.
A feature of government funding at this point. So, anytime you dump money into a system, it's like the administrators go up.
Well, here's the thing, though.
We're spending more money on education than we've ever had. We have worse outcomes. We're spending more money on healthcare than we've ever had. We have worse outcomes. And then in both cases, you have government pumping money into the system and additional administrators.
But that increase isn't happening under the Medicare and Medicaid. It's happening in the private sector. That's where the increase in the major increase in the cost and major increase in the administrative costs are coming from.
You sure we're not spending more money on Medicare and Medicaid?
Yeah, no, we're spending more, but I'm saying the increase in percentages. Medicare and Medicaid pays a lower percentage in administrative costs than private insurance and healthcare companies do. They devote less of the dollar towards administrative costs than others, and that has been growing inside of private insurance, where it necessarily isn't in Medicare and Medicaid. So that's the problem that disproves that, is that inside the private sector, it's been growing much, much, much faster than what would be the evil, constrained government healthcare system.
You're saying administrators that work for Medicare? Help me understand this. Where are the administrators? Where do they live? Who's an administrator?
No, all I'm saying is all we do is research administrative costs, what percentage of the cost of Medicare and Medicaid go to administrative.
You're talking about the person that works for the government.
The individual
represents Medicare?
Across what it costs in order to administer Medicare, they pay around 5%, when the administration cost for private insurance companies is normally around 12 to 17%. Normally is where it's sitting.
The person that you're saying is an administrator, right? You're saying works for the private insurance company as an administrator or works for the federal government? Who's the Medicare administrator?
Again, I don't have in front of me the names or necessarily office titles.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm just wondering. You're saying there's growth in Medicare administration, and I'm like, is it the person that works for the government? Help me understand who the administrator is.
In the budget, the percentage of the dollar that they spend towards administrative costs is around 5% in Medicare and Medicaid. It's around 11 to 17 in private insurance. All I'm saying is that those private companies pay a higher percentage to cover their administrative costs.
Is that a hospital administrator? No. It's the insurance administrator, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that the insurance company has more administrators than Medicare does, or at least the amount of cost going to it.
I'm not saying more people. I'm just saying the percentage of dollar that they spend. If you give Medicare and Medicaid $1, and you give give the insurance company
who that dollar is going to. Who is that going to?
Again, I don't have their names or no.
Well, I'm not asking the names. But I'm getting clarity on what your argument is. Well, so you're saying it's going to administrative costs. And I'm like, is it the hospital administrative costs? Is it the administrative cost to run the program?
Here's the thing.
Who is the administrator?
Here's the thing. When we look at the percentage both groups are spending on administrative costs, one is spending nearly twice as much That's it.
And I'm just asking,
That's it.
Where is that dollar? Who is that going to? Who is the administrator in that? You're saying this dollar right here is going to an administrative cost. And I'm like, of what?
Okay.
What is that?
Okay, but here's the thing. Why does that necessarily matter? Because it doesn't disprove the numbers. The numbers still are existing.
Because I'm trying to understand what it's actually going to. Because if it's going to an insurance administrator, for instance, okay, well, that's somebody that works within a private company, and if it's being subsidized, that's one argument. If it's going to Medicare and Medicaid, I'd want to see if the actual administrator dollars are going to grow that management of that insurance. Like, is it going to a federal employee? And I'd want to see if there's additional funding going into Medicare and Medicaid that might not be accounted for in that argument. I'm just trying to understand. We're making an argument that this is, and we're way up against a break here.
Yeah,
but I'm just wondering who it is that is the administrator. So, for instance, if you say Cherry Creek High School is spending money on administration, I can point to them and go, this administrator is getting money that wasn't here. And oftentimes it's like a DEI person. So I can actually say it's that person. All right, we'll continue. We got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Well, Billy and I have kicked it off. Lots of text messages. Even Suzanne and I actually agreeing at one point that a lot of this money is going to end up with Swedish or Rose hospitals. I think that's exactly where it's going. but it's all part of the government cabal. All right, let's get to Bill's You Choose the News.
Yes. On this Monday morning, it is time for us to play America's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news. You know how this works. Really silly stories that I have found on the interwebs by mere browsing, put even more ridiculous headlines on them so we can play this fake radio news game show, because those that awaken do not arise until 7 o'clock. Yes, those in charge are not awake for about another 8 minutes, so we are going to take full advantage of being left unsupervised. We enjoy it a lot here, and so please help us out and keep it a giant secret. Nobody knows. Okay. As always, Blake Olson joins us from the news department. Here are your headlines, gentlemen. Headline number 1, strike a pose. Headline number 2, cleaning tub. Headline number 3, upgrade. And headline number 4, a whole new world. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Oh, one of my favorite. That's Aladdin, right?
Yes.
Whole new world.
Yes, a whole new world. And it's going to be a whole new world when Mr. Beast, the world's most popular YouTuber, is going to open his brand new theme park. Yes, he's getting in on the Disney action. The 27-year-old social media star says Beastland is going to be opening later this year. And the attractions are inspired by his YouTube videos. Yes, but before you start booking flights and travel and hotels right now, understand where you're going. Mr. Beast is going to be opening Beastland in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Yes, his brand new theme park is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Interesting choices for all sorts of freedoms that he enjoys here doing his silly games. But, oh well. He says that middle of the world, because a majority of his audience is outside America, a huge Middle East fan base, and he wanted to give them a chance to participate. And Saudi Arabia gave me a ginormous check. I added that last part. That's really what happened. He has more than 449 million subscribers on YouTube, thanks to his wacky challenges like 100 kids versus the world's strongest man and survive 30 days chained to your ex, win $250,000. Mr. Beast said he built the custom games modeled after their videos that don't exist anywhere else. I'm waiting for the one where he buries little children and says you have to wait 30 days and see if you can get out to get $10,000 or at least a little cat. I don't know. Yeah, kind of curious. But again, he built it in Saudi Arabia. Okay. Alrighty then. Yes.
It's a global world.
Yeah. It's a whole new world. See what I did there?
The whole thing.
All right. See what we did there?
Takes a minute.
I know.
Well
and
done.
again, it was Aladdin. See, there's a whole Middle Eastern thing. Okay, see, there are layers here. Layers, people. Okay, Blake, strike a pose, cleaning tub, or upgrade?
Strike a pose.
Yes, strike a pose. Here we find ourselves in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Era Naturists are going to be hosting a brand new charity event coming up Saturday at Crafton Ingram Lanes. It's a bowling event for charity and fun. It's called Balls Out Bowling because you're not allowed to wear any clothes. Yes, you're supposed to be naked. Yes. Now, nudity is required for all participants at the event. It is inclusive of everybody, all body types. Guests do, however, need to bring their own towel to sit on and a bag for personal items because sometimes you're a little sweaty.
So gross.
They give you those. They give you those. Don't you remember? They give you those.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
They spray those down.
Can you wear sunglasses?
I get probably. That's probably the only thing you're allowed to. Now, admission is $30 per person, whether you're bowling or not. So if you just want to come and gaze at all the wonderment, you can go there too and just hang out. And I don't know why you would, but okay. Anyway, Balls Out Bowling. Yes, it's a real thing.
Sure, those 3 holes fit.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not going to ask how you're testing those. Alrighty, Blake. Okay, Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir. Cleaning tub or upgrade?
Upgrade.
Upgrade. UK's Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, has spent about $400 million recently to modernize their computer systems. They had to replace tens of thousands of Windows 7 laptops with Windows 10, which just ended getting support last month. Yes, the United Kingdom's government just spent $400 million to upgrade their systems to Windows 10, which just recently stopped getting any sort of support from Microsoft. Ta-da! Nice. Every once in a while, it's nice to hear that somebody else's government is screwed up as badly as ours.
Right?
That's it. All right, back to you, Jeff.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.